and welcome to Cinema Wellman. I'm your host, David, and today we will be highlighting the top 10 and bottom 5 films we screened here during the first quarter of 2025. So that covers movies screened here during the months of January, February, and March. There were 157 films screened during these months, and no surprise, there was the good, the bad, and the ugly as usual. Our best list includes a few Academy Award winners that I wanted to talk about a little more, even though I did mention them in a previous episode. We will begin, however, as we always do, which is at the bottom, and here are a few I suggest that you stay away from, starting with 2023's Old Dads, rated R, 104 minutes, IMDb 6.2, directed by Bill Burr. Let me begin by stating that I am not easily offended. Anyone who knows me can attest to that. I may not be easily offended, but I'm really not very good at thinking hurtful and insulting jokes at others' expense are funny. I like Bill Burr. I like Bill Burr quite a bit. His SNL episodes are among my recent favorites, but Burr pushes the envelope. That's what he does. Most of the time, I find that pushing funny. Unfortunately, Old Dads is not an example of this. I have an aversion to the C word and find it vulgar and repulsive, so when it's used for laughs, it's even worse. It's possible that one word landed Old Dads on this list, but I'll stand by that. This old dad says that there's no need for that shit. Next, from 1989, Velmont, rated R, 137 minutes. IMDb says 7.0. Directed by Milos Forman. If you're a regular here, you know how I despise those period piece costume dramas that were all the rage for, the past 40 years. I am forced to watch them due to my self-imposed goal of trying to see everything ever nominated for any Oscar, a goal I question at times. And 95% of these period pieces are only nominated for costume design. So I check out the décolletage and try not to pay too much attention to the stories because they're dreadful. The characters are usually horrible people, and we all know that horrible rich people are even worse than regular horrible people, and all of that is true in Velmont. What makes this worse is that the main plot of this trash, 7.0 on IMDb, revolves around a bunch of creepy rich old dudes trying to take the virginity of a 15-year-old girl. You heard that right. People were all sorts of gross back then. Well, some still are. Can we please leave young girls alone? Let them decide when and if they're ready for such things, and their choice, dudes, not yours. Next. Oh, it's a combo pack. We hate those. From 1932, Congo, and from 1964, Rhino. Congo passed. That's the rating, passed. 86 minutes, IMDb 6.5, because they love colonialism, directed by William J. Cowan. Rhino from 64, not rated, 91 minutes, 5.4, directed by Ivan Tors. These two adventure films are being combined as one because they were pretty much the same exploitative mess. As you can probably tell by the titles, these adventure films involved Africa, a place that has been exploited for centuries for a variety of reasons. These films do not dabble in the blood diamond industry, nor do they take part in the slave trade, but they certainly exploit Africa's people and animals for a buck. Rhino was shot in South Africa and Congo in California, but both are hard to watch once you get past the novelty of seeing big game animals. No surprise that the native people are poorly represented, and there is no way any animal rights organization would abide by some of what is depicted on screen. Much of what both films had to offer was sad to see. And next we have College Hounds from 1929. Passing rating, only 16 minutes, and it lands on the worst list. IMDb 5.4, directed by Jules White. If I just told you the title and not the year, you'd assume College Hounds was an R-rated sex romp about dudes on the prowl during spring break or some other nonsense. Instead, I'll let IMDb give it a shot. This Dogville comedy is a spoof of college football movies. A man in debt to a loan shark uses his daughter to stop football hero Red Mange from playing in the big game between Airedale College and Spitz University. Get the picture? Okay, so all that, but there's not a human in this movie. The entire film is acted out by dogs, real, actual dogs. To be totally honest, I did a 180 about 3 minutes into this 16-minute short. Here's me watching this movie and realizing what I was actually seeing. Here's kind of what I was thinking. Hey, look at these cute dogs. They're all dressed up as humans and acting in human situations. Look, there's a doggy bar. The dogs are drinking beer. Wait, how are they drinking beer? That's not a real paw. That's a fake paw they're drinking with. Where is his real paw? Is he all bound up so he won't reach for the beer with his real paws? Why are most of the dogs on their hind legs? Stop doing that. Nobody wants to see that. Let them walk on all four legs. Damn, they look uncomfortable. They look so unhappy. They're in pain. Someone stop this. Get in there and put a stop to this and save these poor dogs. And scene. And that's pretty accurate. I then read that I was right about all of that and that these types of films were deemed cruel to the animals and they were banned. I mean, I was a fan of Lancelot Link back in the day, and I'm pretty sure those monkeys were not treated the best, but these poor dogs. And no one wants to see a dog walking on its hind legs. I'm sorry. And here we go. This is the really bottom from 2024 Aftermath. Rated R, 97 minutes, IMDb 5.1, directed by Patrick Lussier. We're going to start with IMDb because I need to be reminded by why I watched this in the first place. A returning war veteran stricken with PTSD unwittingly gets trapped with his teenage sister on Boston's Tobin Memorial Bridge as a heavily weaponized group of ex-military revolutionists take everyone hostage. Everyone. Okay, got it. Tobin Bridge. That's the bridge Charles Stewart tossed himself off of. So I was intrigued enough to tune in and see Boston. I think 5 minutes of it was filmed in Boston and the rest of it was filmed somewhere in an airplane hangar. So much for seeing Boston. I'm watching the opening credits and see Dylan Sprouse, and my first thought is, Jesus Christ, another Sweet Life of Zach and Cody movie? Are those kids making a comeback? Who asked for that? I mean, good for them, but not only was the premise and plot of this thinner than one-ply toilet paper, can we please stop with everyone caught in a life-threatening situation in the movies being an ex-military former black ops / black bag operative? Are there that many of these people out there? Do I know any of them? Do I work with any of them? Should have known better and skipped this. So this one's on me, but it still makes the list. All right, now let's get to the good stuff. Here we go. Number 10, for whatever the ranking means, from 2025, Cleaner, rated R, 97 minutes, IMDb 4.9, directed by Martin Campbell. IMDb, criminal activists hijack a gala, taking 300 hostages. One extremist plans mass murder as a message to the world. An ex-soldier turned window cleaner. Hold it 1 minute. Didn't I just complain about this trend in movies when I was giving Aftermath a beating? That just happened. Isn't this the same thing? What is the difference? Daisy Ridley over whichever Sprouse that was? Pretty much. This is just more proof that a film is subjective and so many intangibles factor in what kind of mood you're in at the time. Is Cleaner ridiculous at times? Yeah. Are there plot holes? Yes and yes. Just like Die Hard, except Cleaner isn't a Christmas movie. I took this on face value and enjoyed it for what it was. Mindless, escapist entertainment. Nothing wrong with that now and then. Number 9 from 2025, Opus. Rated R, 103 minutes, 5.9, underrated. Directed by Mark Anthony Green. Let's begin with IMDb, and then I'll mention something that blew my mind when it came to casting. A writer travels to the compound of a pop icon who disappeared years ago. Surrounded by his cult of sycophants as well as a group of fellow journalists, she soon discovers his twisted plans for the gathering. The writer is played by a great young actress whose name I always savage, Io Edebiri. I think that's close, but her casting wasn't the mind-blowing part. The reclusive pop icon who was like Elton John mixed with Howard Hughes and the Reverend Jim Jones is played by the one and only John Malkovich. He sings, he dances, he wears outrageous costumes, he chews all of the scenery. Malkovich is just fantastic in this as Alfred Moretti. It's so different from any other role I've ever seen him in, and I'm glad he took this role to once again prove what a talented actor he is. The music from Moretti's pop career is so well done. The songs seem totally believable and real for the genre. We have Nile Rodgers to thank for that. The legendary musician, producer, and composer wrote the songs that Malkovich delightfully belts out. Opus falls kind of flat a little at the end, I think, but this psychological thriller is worth it just to see Malkovich as Moretti. Great fun, great music, great Malkovich. Number 8 from 2023 is I'm Not a Robot. Not rated, 22 minutes, IMDb 7.1. This is from the Netherlands, directed by Victoria Warmerdam. I love short films. I love the Dutch, so it's no surprise that I love this short Dutch film. You know those little tests we get on the computer now and then to make sure that we're not robots? That's what this Oscar-winning live-action short is all about. Those are called CAPTCHA tests, by the way. I didn't know that before seeing this movie. IMDb, after repeatedly failing CAPTCHA tests, music producer Lara becomes obsessed with a disturbing question. Could she be a robot? So there you go. That's all I'm going to tell you, other than this was a mind-bending little movie that I thought about for days after screening it. I think you'll enjoy it, even if you've never wondered if you were a robot or not. Have you? Have you ever wondered? Like a little bit? The whole simulation thing. Anyway, number 7 from 2024, Becoming Hitchcock, The Legacy of Blackmail. Not rated, 72 minutes, IMDb 7.2. This is a French film, but it's in English, directed by Laurent Bouzereau. You know we love our love here at Cinema Wellman for Alfred Hitchcock. The master of suspense is responsible for quite a few of my all-time favorite movies. So why wouldn't I be interested in a documentary detailing the evolution of Hitchcock as a filmmaker? Blackmail is an early film of Hitchcock's made in 1929 that actually laid the groundwork for many of the techniques and themes that made him famous and in some of the best suspense thrillers ever made. I thoroughly enjoyed how the filmmakers focused on a technique used in Blackmail and then showed how Hitchcock used the same technique, many times improving it in later films. We did an episode about Hitchcock last season, which featured a list of his director's trademarks, things that pop up over and over and over in his films. That's exactly what this film does, while showing how most of them were born, these themes and techniques, in Blackmail. Must see for any fan of the great Alfred Hitchcock. Number 6 on today's list is from 2024, The Damned. It's a UK film directed by Theodore Passion, rated R, 89 minutes, IMDb only 5.7, a little low, I think. IMDb, a 19th century widow has to make an impossible choice when, during an especially cruel winter, a foreign ship sinks off the coast of her Icelandic fishing village. Her impossible choice is whether or not to rescue the people who are on that sinking ship. The winter is relentless, and there's not enough food to feed the people already living in the village. Taking in more people would make that food situation even more dire. So don't rescue them, let them drown. But if you don't help them, there's a chance that they all turn into Draugr. And that's not good for anyone. A Draugr is an undead spirit from Old Norse mythology that typically haunts the area where they died. Draugr resemble a reanimated, decaying corpse and are noted for their disgusting stench of rotting meat. Yum. They have inhuman strength and are able to visit the dreams of the living, often leaving behind a tangible gift or physical sign, assuring the victim that the dream was real. And they can kill their victims with bad luck or a curse. Can they kill catering with a thought? Holy shit, they sound absolutely terrifying. I really enjoyed this film and its portrayal of humanity. Filmed entirely in Iceland in a place that is beautiful, but also very bleak and claustrophobic. These Draugr are the real deal. Number 5 from 2024, directed by John M. Chu, IMDb saying 7.5. 160 minutes, PG rated, Wicked. This film will always have a special place in my heart. I'm not saying it's the best movie I've ever seen or the best movie I watched last year or even last month, but Wicked will always be special to me because of the screenings I held here at Cinema Wellman for my work friends. And I do realize that I use the plural of screening because we actually got together to watch Wicked here twice. Pretty much the same crew both times. Can my enjoyment of this film be linked to the people I watched it with both times? Yeah, pretty much. Not saying I would have disliked it, but when you see a film with someone or a group who are really into it, your happiness level goes up, as does your feeling about the film. If you're a fan of the OG Wizard of Oz or you like musicals, you can't go wrong with Wicked. Or if you pretend not to like musicals and do, you're still going to like it. The sets were amazing. The costumes were amazing. Cynthia Erivo was stunning and it won a couple of Oscars. You know, what's not to like? Ariana Grande? Maybe, but get over that. And the monkeys weren't nearly as terrifying as they were in the original. Number 4 on our list from 2024 is September 5th. Rated R, 95 minutes, IMDb 7.1, directed by Tim Feldbaum. This film chronicles something that happened when I was 10 years old, but remember like it was yesterday. At the Winter Olympics in Munich, Germany on September 5th, 1972, 8 members of the Palestinian terrorist group known as Black September entered the Olympic Village and took Israeli athletes and coaches hostage. When it was all over, approximately 21 hours later, 11 members of the Israeli team, a German police officer, and 5 of the terrorists were dead. Those 21 hours are the focus of the film, and the story is told in a very unique way. Sports reporter and Olympic host Jim McKay, who is the Olympics to everyone my age, is the star of this movie, even though no one was cast to play him other than a double for some over-the-shoulder shots. McKay appears in actual archival footage from that day and is rarely seen outside of the monitors. McKay's appearance gives this drama a documentary feel. Peter Sarsgaard plays head of ABC Sports Roone Arledge, who was faced with not only programming decisions that day, but also legal and ethical decisions as well. Was it a sports story? Was it a news story? Could they risk showing live feeds that may have resulted in on-air deaths for the world to see? This is an extremely tense film, even though many viewers know how the real events played out. If you're old enough to have watched this back in 1972, this will bring it all back to you. If you weren't around in 1972 or know nothing about this historical event, September 5 is very capable docudrama that tells the behind-the-scenes story of a tragic day in a peaceful setting. Number 3 from 2024 is Presence, rated R, 84 minutes, IMDb 6.1. Directed by our friend Steven Soderbergh. Since I am an AMC A-list member, for what that's worth, and I pay up front every month, I tend to go to movies that I wouldn't ordinarily go out of my way to pay and see. That's really my main reason for being part of that subscription. That and it gets me out of the house once in a while. Because of this, I find myself going to more than a few movies blind. I may know the director or star or two, the genre, etc., but I don't read about it or watch the trailers before I go. And that leads me to being surprised every now and then, almost always in a good way. Presence was one of those pleasant surprises, even though it had nothing to do with Led Zeppelin's most underrated album. IMDb says a family becomes convinced they are not alone after moving into their new home in the suburbs. Although this sounds like a typical psychological horror premise, director Steven Soderbergh and cinematographer Peter Andrews, who is actually Soderbergh, and he's also editor Marianne Bernard. Well, the three of them create something here that elevates it past your typical psychological horror film. The camera work in this film alone is worth the price of admission. The handheld camera seems to be floating through the house, as we are oftentimes given the point of view of this presence as it interacts with the family in their new home. This is an atmospheric and tense psychological thriller that keeps you wondering throughout. And Soderbergh brings it in at 84 minutes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Number 2 on our list is from 2024, and it's Nosferatu, rated R, directed by Robert Eggers, IMDb 7.3, 132 minutes. I'm a huge fan of the 1922 original silent film Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror. Director F.W. Murnau's classic horror film starring Max Schreck, who may or may not have been a real vampire. As vampire, Count Orlok is a must-see for any horror fan. It's still among the creepiest of the creepy for me. When I heard there was going to be a remake, I wasn't happy. I never am when I hear a movie I really love is being remade. Then I heard Robert Eggers was going to direct, and I enjoyed his creepy film, The Lighthouse, so I figured the story was in good hands. I'd give it a shot. Turns out I was right. Is it as good as the original? No, but you expected me to say that. Was it an excellent horror film that did a wonderful job reimagining what Murnau brought to the screen in 1922? Yes. I wish it was entirely in black and white, but that's just me. And I'm pretty sure Bill Skarsgård isn't a real vampire. Pretty sure. And number 1 on our list is from 2024, and it's Flow. Rated PG, 85 minutes, 7.9 IMDb, directed by Gintz Zilbalodis. I think that's right. I'm going to go out on a limb here and tell you that if you see Flow, it's going to become your all-time favorite Latvian film. That may sound like a sucker bet, and it probably is, since I'm coming up on 10,000 films, and Flow is only the second Latvian film I've ever seen. If Flow is any measure, we should hope Latvia's film program keeps making more movies. IMDb says cat is a solitary animal, but as its home is devastated by a great flood, he finds refuge on a boat populated by various species and will have to team up with them despite their differences, end quote. Sounds like a nice allegory to me. Too bad people don't team up despite their differences anymore. It's disappointing. Flow is not disappointing, that's for sure. And no worries, if you don't know Latvian or don't like to read your movies, this one has 0 dialogue. Just music, and excellent music at that. This is a harrowing, uplifting adventure that will have you rooting for cat, capybara, secretary bird, dog, and even the ring-tailed lemur, who doesn't murder anybody. Flow was awarded the Oscar for Best Animated Feature this past year, and that award was well-deserved, in my opinion. And not that it's any way to judge movies here at Cinema Wellman, but I did cry. Like I said, it's not saying much. Well, that is a wrap from here at Cinema Wellman as we broke down the top 10 and bottom 5 of the first quarter of 2025. We hope you're back with us next time for what I'm sure will be an episode about some movies that I've seen. There's another limb I'm not too far out on, but until then, take care.